the toughest thing I've ever done while editing a Hannah video is perfectly syncing up her saying oof to the N64 thwomp sound. That took like 30 minutes.
Let's get started. One take, no mistakes. Let's fucking go.
Let's eat some brake fluid.
Hello, Internet. I promise you I'm not insane. Maybe I am. I don't know. This is the start of a new series. I'm gonna do a short introduction and everything. I haven't just figured out what I want to name it yet. Maybe like Science Weekly or This Week I Learned. 5 Minute Science. That's not bad. 5 Minute Science.
5 Minute Crafts.
Like 5 Minute Crafts, but like.
If it wasn't clear already, there's guests here by the way.
Oh yeah. Fuck you guys. Okay. I am joined today by my two friends and two editors, Pen&Quinn and Blake.
Hi.
Hello.
And yeah, so in this video, I'm gonna be explaining something I learned this week, which sounds stupid, but I'm in classes right now, so it's gonna be about my actual things I've learned in classes. So yeah, so if you couldn't tell, I go to Drexel University. I'm wearing my Drexel University Dragons shirt right now. I'm a biomedical engineer, or I'm training to be a biomedical engineer. I'm a third year out of 5-year program. So
her social security number is 2.
Exactly, thank you.
She's very old.
I am. You can tell, can't you?
She moisturizes.
I do moisturize. Anyway, so, yeah, I'm pretty far in, and there's a lot of, over the past few months, I haven't been able to record a lot of, like, really in-depth science videos for D&D, because those take a lot of research, and I don't want to get things wrong in it, even though I get things wrong in it. But these are things I like learning in class, and I had a lot of interesting things that I learned last quarter that I wanted to share, but then couldn't figure out how to share them because they were very niche, or I couldn't apply them to D&D, stuff about like the way bones are shaped and stuff, and how it prevents shearing and stuff. It's really cool. But we're gonna do a more modern take stuff with the classes I'm learning this quarter. I will one day explain the fucked up academic system that is Drexel University. Drexel University is great, guys. This is really cool. So I'm taking 5 classes this quarter. A biomedical statistics class, a biomedical electronics lab, transport phenomena and living systems, modeling BMES design 2, and my only biology class, which is a form, function, and evolution of vertebrates. Verts, as we like to call it. Today. In the biz. Today. Shh. Quiet. Quiet, guests. I shall be teaching you something I learned in my statistics class this week, which is, what is science? That is, I am not joking about that. I learned about the scientific method this week in my statistics class. But honestly, it was really eye-opening, and it was really interesting, and I really wanted to share it. I'm going to explain this hour-long lecture to you in 5 minutes, guys. And your opinions about the scientific method might change a little, or your perspective of it, I should probably say. Your perspective of it.
What's the policy for asking questions? Or do we just shut the fuck up?
You don't... I guess interrupt...
Yeah, that works!
Yeah. You don't... I mean... Interrupt...
I think the point is...
Interrupt me if you want, but the point is...
At our own peril.
At your own peril. Yeah, I like that. Because I have an hour-long lecture to get through in 5 minutes, guys.
Yeah, I feel like it's better if Hannah just, like, rants at us for the whole thing instead of...
Oh, shit. So, I have a 5-minute timer up over here, which I'll put somewhere up on the screen. And... Ready, guys?
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Alright. So, the scientific method is you observe something, you make a hypothesis, you test that hypothesis, you analyze your data, and you come to a conclusion. That is how most people understand the scientific method to be, which is not necessarily wrong. But let's say you enter your apartment and you turn on a light switch and the lights don't come on. What do you do? Well, you notice something, you observe something, the lights are out. Why? Perhaps the switch wasn't operated properly. So which is your hypothesis, then if you toggle the switch, the light will come on, and that is called a test implication. So you toggle the switch, the light doesn't come on. So really, that's should one, the scientific process, the scientific method isn't 6 steps, it's 4 steps: observation, hypothesis, implication, and test. And that's the totality of it, right? So, you toggle the switch, the light doesn't come on. So the result of the first experiment is a new observation, which is toggling the light switch did not cause the light to function. So you have a new hypothesis, which is the circuit breaker trips or the fuse blew. So if true, the lights won't work in the bedroom, which is the implication of this new hypothesis, right? So you turn the bedroom switch on, to test that implication, and the lights worked. So now you have a new observation, which is the lights work in the bedroom. So you need a new hypothesis, right? But do you need a new hypothesis? And the answer is no, you don't, because you assumed that both lights were on the same fuse or circuit breaker, right? Which is an assumption. And what if that assumption is wrong? Because if that assumption is wrong, then the hypothesis wasn't tested properly. So you go downstairs and you look at the fuse box or the circuit breaker and you realize that they're not on the same line, right? Which means that the hypothesis itself is incorrect. So if you misinterpret observations, the study could be designed completely inappropriately. So your new hypothesis, your bulb burns out, so a new bulb will work, right? So that's the implication. So you test it by inserting a new bulb, the light works. Was your hypothesis correct? For most people, the answer is yes. For anybody who's trying to be a scientist or an engineer, it shouldn't be, because alternative explanations are always possible. And that is really like a big deal. Because what if the light bulb was just loose? Can you test this now? You can't, because you already pulled the bulb out. But the general hypothesis of it can be checked by, if you have a loose light bulb, you can see that loose light bulbs don't, light up, right? Or your alternative hypothesis could be, there could have been a rat just like chewing on the wires, and then it died, and now your wires work now. Oh no. But in either way, there's always an alternative approach. So to do this, we can simplify this down even farther using what's called symbolic logic, which is like really reductive kind of logic where you state it in very general things. So if your hypothesis is true, then your implication is true. So if your test implication is confirmed as true, then your hypothesis must be true, right? No, that's actually false. Because imagine it like, if you say, if it rains, then the ground will be wet. And you walk outside and you see the ground is wet. And then you're like, it must have rained. But that doesn't have to necessarily be true. What if somebody had a garden hose or dumped their drink on the ground? There's so many different explanations. So you can't use the consequent of something, the test implication of something, to prove a hypothesis, which means science can't actually prove hypotheses are correct. So what if we tried a different way where we said, okay, well, if H is true, the hypothesis is true, then the implication must be true. And if we find that the implication isn't true, then the hypothesis must not be true, which technically is true, but is also, you forget about assumptions, because the complete formulation of it is if your hypothesis is true and your assumption 1 and assumption 2 and 3 and so on, and then your implication is true, and then you find that your implication isn't true, that means your hypothesis could be wrong, or your assumption could be wrong, or any of them. And so you can't actually disprove hypotheses either. Okay, well that was
What?
Okay, well,
That was crazy.
yeah, well, I was about to get to the rest of it, which is essentially,
That wasn't everything.
It was almost everything.
Okay.
Essentially, the rest of it is if you can't prove hypotheses and you can't disprove hypotheses, what is science good for? The point of science is to allow humans to predictably manipulate their environments. So essentially, to create probabilities, to assist in rational decision making. Science provides probabilities. It does not provide answers. So truth seeking in science is quite the bad idea, because science is about finding the truth. Science is about finding the probability of something.
Interesting.
Okay, I guess explain it back to me. How well did I did? How much did you understand?
Okay. So
For context, for those watching, I've been playing Peggle the entire time. So
okay.
we're simulating a real science class because I was playing Peggle. Alex was taking notes.
It's probably decent notes. I have no idea.
Did you actually take notes?
I did.
Oh my
I
God.
have 2 sticky notes in front of me that have words written on them.
Okay, well, okay,
Technically
Alex.
notes.
Alex, what did you get? What did you get?
Okay.
Shouldn't it be me first? 'Cause
Okay, actually, you know
yeah,
what? That's a better
it's-
point. Quinn,
be
what
Quinn.
did you get from it?
Okay, so the scientific method is built on see, I don't remember the correct terms because again, I have hard time learning big word. It's identifying the problem, forming a hypothesis, testing the the thing for testing it, but then also there's assumption, like, lurking in between there.
Yes.
So, like, if you test the hypothesis, you're assuming that every situation is the same. So, like, if light bulb off, then the fuse is blown. What if there was just a rat? I focused mostly in on the rat.
The rat really got you, didn't it?
The rat hooked me. If the rat is just eating the wires, then you're wrong, because the fuse... There's more than one reason why things happen. In short. There's more than one reason why things happen. You can't always assume that it's not just a rat.
From the notes that I took,
Yes.
scientific method is observe, hypothesize. I think there was another step that you said, like the implication of your hypothesis,
Yes.
test, and analyze. But then you looped back on yourself and said that, like, okay, there's only 4 steps, which is observe, hypothesize, implication of hypothesis, and test.
Yes.
And you were cutting out analyze because your analysis is your observation for your next hypothesis, basically.
A little bit, yeah.
But if you're going to do that, why shouldn't, like, a part of your hypothesis also include the implication of your hypothesis? So I think the scientific method only has 3 steps then, of the observe, hypothesize, and test.
Okay.
But,
so we're debating with the teacher now.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
but
here
if
for
your
it.
hypothesis has wrong assumptions, any study that you do can be wrong, because if you assume something different, then it's like correlation does not equal causation, necessarily. Alternate explanations can always happen, and you should test them. If your initial assumptions are wrong, you can't really prove your hypothesis. You can never prove a hypothesis. But if you imply the wrong thing from your hypothesis, and there's other alternate explanations as to why something happened, you can't really disprove your hypotheses either. So you can't prove or disprove any hypotheses, so the point of science is to figure out probabilities, not truth. Because there's no such thing as absolute truth. Everything's all a matter of probabilities as to what things are.
You're my star student.
Yeah.
Aw. That was great. Exactly. Yeah. That's what that's what I learned this week. That's one of the things I learned this week.
What grade did I get?
You got Alex. You got an A. Quinn. You got a P for Peggle.
Yeah!
Alright. That's it for today. I'll be back next week with hopefully something from a different class that I learned about. So
Maybe
yeah.
we'll be allowed out of the editor dungeon again.
Yeah.
Maybe. They're not. You guys can't see their eyes blinking. They're just fine, guys. I don't.
My eyes never blink. Are they supposed to blink?
No, they're supposed to say on the screen editing my videos, Blake.
Ah, okay.
Thank you. Alright. I will see you all later. Goodbye. Keep
Bye.
Stay curious. I don't know. I don't
Free
have a
us.
catchphrase.
Free us!